What is up, guys? It's Connor from the Runaways. I'm here with my trusty Dash.io deck. If you've seen me playing Flesh and Blood in the last few years, you probably seen me playing Dash.io. I love this hero. One of my favorites in the game for sure. Actually, one of my favorite decks in all of TCGs, honestly, in all my history of playing card games. I'm fresh off a 9-0 finish in CC at Worlds, along with top 32, but after a little bit of a rough run in LL, but we really pulled it together for CC. I've been playing this deck basically since August. I top 8'd the Colin in Kansas City after CYK Lionel won in Auckland with the deck. I played it in Kansas City. Deck was great. I've basically made no changes. This list has been almost perfect for me. I've never gone this long playing a deck as much as I have without making any changes. I think that we've really dialed it in and it's like hit its max efficiency point. And I think the deck is great in the metagame right now. I think it's great into open metas because of how powerful it is. And I think it's a deck that rewards reps. So if you start practicing now, by the time RTN season rolls around, you'll be a killer with Dash.io. And I think that she's one of the best decks to get good at, honestly, because she rewards play experience and game plan practice and everything so well. This list is built all around max V. This deck is the most efficient max V deck I've ever seen. It casts the card incredibly well compared to other Dio decks. We have some of our extra zero costs. We have Expedites, along with Sprocket Rockets and T-Bones and 0 to 60s. We have so many zero cost boosts, and these zero cost boosts really make it quite easy to play Max V. You can play it sometimes off of resources from a Techlo core. Just 2 resources can let you power your whole turn along with a Techlo Foundry and play your Max V. So Max V, if you like playing 2 for 10s, which who doesn't, right? This is a deck that you could probably get behind. Along with the rest of the power of the deck. You know, Dio's hero ability, one of the most powerful in the game. You get to the top try your deck at any time, which is also a really fun feeling. You get to see so many cards during the course of a game. You get a lot more decision-making power than other decks. I love this style gameplay. And then obviously her hero ability to get that free item each turn. One of the most powerful in the game. Like a boom grenade off the top is worth 6, basically. And like Cerebellum Processor off the top is worth an extra card, and just the rate that you get off these free cranked items off the top, which are powerful cards in their own right, but then for free off the hero ability, it just becomes really busted really quickly. I think this is the best chess piece in the game, Techlo Foundry Heart, making an extra resource each turn, letting you get more looks to the top of the deck for your Dio hero power. It really is the engine of the deck. It makes everything go. And honestly, one of my favorite Flesh and Blood cards. If you played Dio in the past, one of the main additions for the deck that has happened in the last 6 months or so is Cogwarts Tinker Rings out of High Seas. This, in combination with Adaptive Plating, is a really powerful combo. It lets you block for 5 with just these 2 pieces of armor. And Cogwarts Tinker Rings makes an item for your Symbiosis shot. So it lets you have a lot of armor into the other aggro decks, which is a really nice spot to be in. We can block basically 5 from these, and then 2 with our chest and 2 with Crown of Providence, plus the 1 from the second block from chest. So that's about 10 block. Syndra, for example, out of her armor has 5 block, and she really doesn't want to block with them. We're very happy to block with our armor whenever it fits. So really helpful into the other aggro decks. You have some other items or some other equipment that you'll play into the more controlling decks, like our Hanabi Blaster or our Achilles Accelerator or Goliath Gauntlet. But into the aggro decks, this package has really helped firm up our aggro mirrors, which our deck was already kind of good into. We're most of the time faster than the other aggro decks. Most of the time we can have a little bit of disruption between Pulse Wave Harpoon or Heist. But I think that this is the biggest game changer for the deck. If you played it last year, maybe, I would recommend trying out the deck with this new armor suite. This list, a lot of times you're going to present 71 cards into the control decks. which is kind of fun. It is fun to fat deck and just submit everything. It makes your life a lot easier when you're sideboarding. But because of that, we don't have the space for really specific tech cards like an all-time zone. Only 2 of it, but it's still pretty playable in our normal 71 card shell. It's obviously really powerful into some matchups, but it works in our 71 card shell. So everything kind of has to be playable most of the time, because having 71 cards is such a big advantage into the defensive decks. Having those extra boosts, the ability to activate a Technical Foundry card if you have to, the ability to not boost away good cards, instead boost away some of the chaff, is really powerful. And you kind of just have to submit 71 into your Earth Heroes or the Assassins or any defensive-minded deck. For the aggro mirrors, we get a little bit more lean. We're going to cut some of our more expensive cards, like Throttles, and this Tibetan Amplifier gets out of there, and Pounders and all-time zones, which really don't have a place in the aggro mirrors. We opt for just a really lean, mean boosted machine where we're just trying to play max V as much as we can and hopefully erase our aggro opponents. So the deck kind of has these two-pronged plans into decks that are slower than you, like the defensive decks, or like decks that are trying to be faster than you, like the aggro decks, which playing the hero, if you kind of get reps into each of them, it's pretty transferable. Like playing into one aggro deck is pretty similar to all the aggro decks. Same with the defensive decks. There's a couple different kind of defensive decks. There's like the more blocking, just trying to hang out and block decks like Florian or Verdance, versus like more defensive decks or more disruptive defensive decks like Arachne, Marionette, or Slippy, either or the Guardians. So those couple different styles play a little bit differently. Once you get used to it, it's not too bad. But I really like how the deck has these kind of 2 big configurations and these 2 main plans that kind of give you play into everything in the format. Yeah, one thing I really liked about Dio right now is I think her positioning in the meta is really strong. You're really happy to play into Gravy Bones. You're very happy to play into Syndra. The Verdance matchup is pretty good once you have experience in it. And then into the random decks, you're also really strong. So I think that you kind of are in a really nice spot in the metagame for picking this hero up. And I think the meta is not going to get shaken up too much unless we see some pretty heavy-handed bans on December 15th. I don't know if the Slippy Armory deck is going to make too much of an impact. So this meta is still, I think, going to be pretty ripe for Dio if you're trying to get into the mechanologist gameplay. The biggest innovation for this deck, or the biggest change, I would say, from previous versions, is Expedite being really good into Gravy Bones. I know it sounds not that big of a deal, but having this card that is incredible into Gravy Bones, you get to crank your backer protocol or your cerebellum processor, drawing a card. That makes the Gravy matchup pretty easy. Honestly, it's like one of the best matchups for the deck in the game. And that means we could play all these extra 0 costs, which makes our max fees a lot better. It really just made kind of the deck get a lot smoother, which I think that's what I like most about this version of the deck. You still have all your power cards. You obviously have Sparks and Cerebellum Processors and our Boom Grenades and our Backup Protocol Reds, all these really powerful things we can find off the top, but it's with this very consistent core. Some cards we're not playing are like BIOS Update or Penetration Script or any of those kind of slower, clunkier cards. Not that BIOS Update is a good card. I like that card. I've played it a lot, but the problem is that it just doesn't facilitate your max V turns. And so it can be a little bit awkward to draw. And so now we've kind of removed all those cards that are awkward to draw. Well, besides Convection Amplifier, this one's a bit awkward to draw, but you need it to finish off against the bench, the big control decks. But this build has really found something, I think. It did well in calling Valencia recently. It has just been putting up results and really hasn't changed that much. So I think that this is an excellent choice. The deck is hard to play. I will say that. But I think it's actually a little bit overstated how hard it is to play. The deck bails me out all the time. I make mistakes all the time playing this deck. You play around the wrong thing, or you try to set up a line and it doesn't quite pan out. And sometimes it just doesn't matter. Sometimes you just still find your Boom Grenade off the top on time, or have a really big hand of all boost attacks. And the boost attacks are some of the best attacks on rate in the game. I mean, 0 to 60, red 0 to 60, obviously. Just go again 0 for 4. Like, you're almost getting up to like Aurora level rate attacks with like all these 1 for 5s and 0 for 4s and just really strong go again attacks. They also block for 3, and they always have go again. There's no worry of, oh, I drew 2 non-go again attacks. I don't have the starter. All of these cards are starters for you. So the deck is really consistent when it draws a fistful of attacks of being able to play them all, which I really, really, really like. I think that's important into the aggro matchups where sometimes their deck, if they falter at all, it's really easy for us to run them over, or into the control decks where when you do have a window where they don't disrupt you, you have to be able to put together that big power turn. And by having this really max consistency build, you're able to do that really well. If you are interested in playing this deck into RTN season or for the upcoming callings, I put together a guide on Metafy. You can go check that out. I recommend it. It's got some good tips on how to play the deck, how to get some of the small edges with the deck, all the sideboarding configurations, depending on which armor you want into the different heroes. And I'm proud of the Metafy guide. I think it came out good. I'd love to hear feedback on it. Any questions people have, feel free to Discord me or send me on Discord or in the comments below. I've been working on this deck for a long time. I've played it basically since Bright Lights came out. I've cast every single mech card there is, pretty much. It kind of pains me to do well with not a bland version of the deck, but a very attack-oriented version of the deck, where I've played some very crazy system reset, like in CC, like weird all item decks, or all these different brews and everything. And then this max efficiency one is the one that's kind of done the best for me, though. Yeah, I think that's all I have to cover on the deck itself today. I'm going to hop into a game against a Syndra after this to kind of display how the matchup works, why I think it's good, and the best way to block into Syndra and kind of leverage this really powerful armor suite. So we'll be back in a minute for that. All right, so we're playing against Austin from Runaways on Syndra. So we're going to go with our lean 60 card configuration, all of our armor. Oh, little fight stream pops up. All right, so here we are against Syndra. Oh, we get the turn 0 Spark of Genius. You'll love to see it. We usually like to get Tetlo Core here, which I'm pretty happy doing, I think. We could 0 to 60. Try to find an item off the top, but I think I'd rather have this. Coming in for 3. Probably we'll let this one hit. You know what's going to happen is he's going to throw a 3 next, and I'm going to be kind of annoyed. Yeah. Oh, never mind. It was a 4. Nice. Nice. We're good. We're Gucci. Now let's see what we got here from him. Coming in for 4. I kind of don't hate... I mean, this is using a lot of our stuff right now, but that's okay. Because I think what we're going to do is we're going to actually do this. And we're going to push this. Sacking that. So we're going to go down to no blues, but we're going to have 4 free resources off these Tetlo cores. Which is a lot of free resources. Go with this. We're going Activate our Foundry Heart. Dig as deep as we can before playing more attacks. This is probably gonna go get Backtrap Protocol. Coming in for 4. Coming in for 4. We could come in for another 4, or we could Arsenal Metafy. Which one of those two things is better? Kind of like coming in for 4 again. Whoops. I want to break the chain before I do this. Man, double. That's so enticing though, just to be able to match him 2 turns in a row. Kind of sad though we didn't find a any items to play that turn. Okay. It's fine. He's gonna have to pitch if he wants to buy back his daggers. So here we're gonna have to find an item in order to play our Metafy. Do I just let him have the card? I think so. I'd love to block this Tetlo core, but unfortunately not able to. Doing this one first. Just keep digging. Nothing. Just can't find anything. Let's find this. We got him to 8 at least. He's gonna throw back probably a monster Wrath turn. That's my guess. Okay, we'll let this one hit. What's nice is off a core we can play all these things. Nope. Probably just try to do the T-bone, right? You can flick here. Or throw dagger, sure. Now it's gonna be really hard to prevent mass triggering. I think I just need to be able to push. I'm worried about surviving, but oh, okay, we did it. All right, we're gonna play this. Wait, we're gonna have to block this. Ugh, of course, now we find an item off the top. I really would have loved that a couple turns ago. Oh, that's a nice hit. That's a good hit. Because now we get to keep this boom grenade around. And he's not letting this one hit. So we might get some armor here plus a card. Get the last shreds of his armor. 3 cards though from him is kind of scary. My favorite thing in the world. Went for 2. He has to throw some very annoying breakpoints here for me. Yeah, now I'm in a lot of trouble. Play this. Do this. Come on, dealer. Oh. That was a good one. That was a good one, boys. Because now he's got to give me 2 cards. Give me them both. Give me both cards. You gotta. Or give me the flick. Now we might be able to throw 2 cards here. Or throw a 4. Yeah, 4 is pretty damn good. But now we used to throw 5. Oh, that's a good one. That's a very good one. And crank this. Well, now I think we got him. Because we can go this for a 0 cost. And then shoot him twice. GG. Good game. This matchup's tight. It's a tight one. But we got 21 threatened, 30 value that turn. Definitely a matchup where there's a lot of swing back and forth. Try to use that armor early. I mean, like, if you look at how much I blocked early, not pretty much not at all with my hand, but trying to use that armor early and try to trade good amount of damage. So I think that shows the Syndrome matchup pretty well. Max vs King. You saw how good Techlo Core was that game. You can throw these offer breakpoints for them that really, like, these boom grenades get very threatening. You can get a little bit behind if you draw a lot of items, but hope that you don't. Be picky with your Crown Providence. But you do want to use it early still, so it's a little bit hard to balance that. But I think that's pretty much it. So then there's a couple things I want to talk about for fatigue, so we'll transition to that after this. But thanks for hanging out so far, guys. So as you guys saw, I just played that game into Cinder really quick. The matchup's fast. It goes pretty quick. You get to trade punches pretty well. The other type of deck you got to play against, obviously, is Fatigue, which is one of the worries for when people pick up this deck. It's kind of hard to play into Fatigue. You need to have a long game plan and a lot of familiarity with playing into Fatigue. My general tips for playing into Fatigue is do not play your boom grenades from hand. So into Verdance or Marionette or any defensive deck, you really want to play your boom grenades off the top as much as you can. And playing them from hand, basically this is like, if it doesn't hit, it's not even a 0 for 4, right? So then it's really hard to hit with them off of like your 3 or 4 card hand after you played the boom grenade from hand. It's just really awkward. You can play them and then just arsenal and then say go to try to set up a 5 card hand the next turn with a boom grenade in play, which does work. It comes up. You'll take that line sometimes. But what I really want to do is I want to pitch these back into my deck. I want to find most of my boom grenades off the top, because now my upside of hitting a boom grenade is a lot bigger because I already have that 5 card hand going. I don't have to waste a card on that boom grenade. So if you draw your reds, and especially yellow boom grenades, yellow boom grenade, really nice to pitch. You want it back at the bottom of your deck as you get kind of low on cards and everything. So my first tip of advice is when you draw an item, especially these reds and yellows, pitch them. Pitch this convection amplifier if you think the game's going to go long and you want access to it. Pitch backup protocol. Obviously, they're not the most efficient cards to pitch, but our deck works off of a pretty low resource curve, so you're able to make it work quite a lot of the time. So my other tip is Teclo Pounder kind of is your best way to beat the fatigue decks. It lets you just stack a lot of value in play and throw these giant over-the-top turns that will go over the top of their 12 blocking, like their 12 value of blocking hand, plus like a lot of times they'll Arsenal D-react, right? So then they'll have about 16-ish block to contend with your big pop-off turn. But if you have a pounder in play or a couple pounders in play, because you do like to stack them up and kind of keep them in play for a long time, you can go way over the top of that and deal these big chunk turns. And then once you take them off an Arsenal, now their hands are only blocking 12 or maybe 13 if they do have a D-react. And now when you throw your more modest 17, 18, 20-point turn, you're going to get a lot of damage through. Where when you throw that 18-point turn against their 16 block because they have the Arsenal D-react, you don't push as much damage. So especially if people are very cognitively trying to fatigue me, where it's like they're not taking any damage to really throw any kind of attack, against Verdants, if they've gained a lot of life, you really have to lean on pounders. So my rule is basically if you see a pounder in first cycle, one, try not to boost it away. Sometimes you can't help it. Sometimes you have to, but you really don't want to boost them away. And two, you just got to play it. I don't care if you got to block and then take kind of an efficient turn. We got to do the pounders in play. And it's okay to leave them in play too. So like sometimes what will happen is, let's say I have a pounder in play and then I want a 0 to 60. I can boost it. And then it's a pretty nice like one card 6 in to shoot my pistol or something like that, right? But you can also not boost it and just throw the 0 for 4, or one of these 0 for 3s or 2 for 6 or something like that, and keep the counter on your pounder so that way you'll have multiple pounders in play at once. And then this also combines with our Hanabi Blaster plan to also kind of encourage that dynamic of taking really big turns, because Hanabi Blaster just throwing 5 at the end of your big chain of attacks, it's pretty much like a free lava burst. That's kind of how it feels. It's like a really good finisher, and a lot of times you can do max V plus, like with the extra action point off cranking a boom grenade, max V plus Hanabi Blaster at the end of your big turn of 3 attacks, which is a ton of damage, and it's really hard for any of the defensive decks to keep up with. And the more and more discipline you have about not playing boom grenades from hand, making sure you play your techno pounders, pitching your crank items as much as you can, doing a good job setting up these max V turns, the more and more discipline you're about it into these fatigue matchups, the more and more successful you'll be. So it's definitely a thing you want to practice, and definitely get good at, especially if you're in a meta game, just locally where people really like control decks. But yeah, guys, I think that covers everything for Dash.io, at least as a little primer to get people into it. If you like this hero, if you want to dig into it, if you are a DO player, I do recommend my Metafy guide. I think it's got some good heuristics that might make figuring out some of the more complicated turns a little bit easier for you. And I hope that I see some more people boosting out there. And I'll see you guys down the road. But best of luck and take it down.